All right, I'm gonna let everybody in. All right, welcome everybody. Happy belated Valentine's. Hope you had a wonderful day celebrating yesterday. I know all of the kiddos at school were probably very excited. And I don't know about the teachers, but we thank the teachers for their support of Valentine's Day. So welcome to our board meeting for February. We have a good group tonight as always, which is great. Couple of quick reminders as far as our meeting. We're still here online together, and we have updated our online sites where all of our agendas are. And so I'm going to make sure I put that into the chat so that everybody has access to where our agendas are. So let me do that real quick. Put that in there. Chat. Okay, so for any of you who want to follow along, you can certainly look at our agendas, which are there. We are also making sure to upload videos and recordings of our past meetings, and that will continue when we do have a hybrid meeting as well. So we're looking forward to that. And just to note, there are some guidelines in terms of participating in these meetings, and those are visible to you as part of that meeting. And one of them is that we do have an opportunity for public comment. Those public comments are for up to 3 minutes, and we are welcoming those. And that is a period that I will have in just a minute once we review the agenda. And again, if you're interested in commenting, probably the easiest way to do that would be to just send a quick chat so that we know who you are and that you're interested to comment. And I'll be sure to keep track of the time. So without further ado, our agenda for tonight, we will be taking any public comments, of course, and then we had 2 meetings that took place. One was our regular board meeting, and then we did have a special topic board meeting, 2 meetings in January, the 11th and the 19th. So we'll make sure we approve those minutes. And then, of course, hear from Patrice and team with the operational update, and hear from Philip on finance, Marnie, if she's with us, on the PTO. Any committee updates, and maybe talk about any future meetings that we need to set up while we're here. And I think that's about it for tonight. Okay. All righty. So with that, I would ask for any public comment. Is there anyone who would like to make a public comment? Thank you, Cindy. A nice PSA in the quick chat. The lottery is tomorrow. Course request for IMHS. I know I got one of those. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Going once. Going twice. All right. Quiet bunch tonight. Thanks so much. We will move right along, heading over to approve our minutes. So we had 2 sets of minutes. I know we're getting our feet wet with the board docs and looking at the minutes and pulling them up with the links. and they are linked with the meeting agenda there. Did everybody get a chance to look at the meeting minutes from the January 11th meeting and the January 19th meeting, which is fairly brief because it was a special topic?
Thanks for your help today, Kristen. I did make it in this time.
Okay, good. Yay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm good.
Sufficient. Looks good.
All right. Good, good.
I'm happy to make a motion to approve the January 11th minutes as reported.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. And then another motion to approve the January 19th minutes as reported.
I will second for you, Stacy.
Awesome. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motions pass. Check those 2
Woohoo.
boxes.
2 in a row. Good job.
Mhm.
Okay. That's the quick 2 up front. So with that, Patrice, over to you.
Okay, so the most exciting news that we have is we did complete our accreditation process through Cognia. I asked Amy Simpson, I don't know if she's gonna open up her camera, but I definitely wanted to give her kudos and a big shout out because she was a big part of this process. So yay, and I just told her, I said I wanted her to come on so we could, you know, give her some appreciation and love. We can't say that they are giving us accreditation at this point because they're very clear that that's a decision that the commission makes for them. But they did say that we can be very clear that we had a very positive report from them. And so I feel like, you know, it's almost one of those wink, wink, nod, nod, but we will go by the books and we will wait, you know, our report to come in. So I think the thing for me that really stood out that I wanted to share, and if you can let me, can I share my screen, Kristen, because I'll take a few minutes to share the PowerPoint too. The thing that I think I was just so moved by is that they took some time in the beginning of the exit presentation to just give some of their personal comments about the school and their interactions with students and staff. And I gotta tell you, it was hard not to feel emotional. I mean, they just shared such positive feedback, and they were very careful of making a comment to say, no, we need you to understand that we speak to a lot of students. And these students were just different. The staff was different. And for us, as those of us who've been around Montessori, you know, long enough, the thing that was for me just the drop the mic experience is when they said that it was the sense of self that the students possessed. And I was like, wow. I was like, oh my gosh, I can just go home, you know, we're good now, you know, for anybody to say that about your students and to really call attention that it was unique. And they interviewed about 50 students. So they had a big cross-section of students that they interviewed. There was on Zoom, but the other thing that there were a couple things, Kathy, and you may remember a couple more. There was one, he was a little bit tougher during at least our interviews with him. I think with staff, he was a little bit more relaxed, but he was a little bit tougher. And I was really surprised by him because he really also took a moment to just say, wow, I'm from South Florida. I know I didn't have any idea where the city of Ocoee was, but you have put Ocoee on the map. And I was like, wow. I mean, it was just, you know, I just can't say enough. So saying that, there's no doubt we have room for improvement as well. And that's the purpose, you know, of the process. And one of the things that I had shared, you know, even with my staff from the get-go is that, look, and even with the students, I had shared this with them, that look, the intent is not for us to be perfect. You know, we have things that we need to change and we need to improve. And so we look forward to hearing those things that we need to improve. So do you see my exit report on the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kathy. So I just wanted to kind of hit a few highlight things. They talk a little bit about, you know, who they are as a global nonprofit for school improvement. They listed, I don't know if it was on, I think it was on this one that they actually listed, I think, Kathy, if I'm correct, they listed that there was like, or maybe it was on Catherine's, Dr. Barnes, where they listed they're in like 31,000 schools, is it? Or, I mean, it was like, I can't remember how many countries, but anyway, they're in a lot of schools. So the whole purpose of the process is to really help us dig into where we stand with leadership capacity, learning capacity, and resource capacity. So those are the three domains that they're digging into. And as you guys know, because you've heard me talk about it a lot, there was a lot of documentation. You know, Amy was great and helped me trying to track down things, but there was a lot of documentation we had to do. And then this was the basically the end of all that documentation. And for my sake, I always say, I walked into this week feeling very confident because, as we all know, once they talk to, sorry, I'll go back. Once they talk to our staff and they talk to our students, I haven't been around a group of people that aren't impressed. So I knew that our students and our staff would really impress them. So anyway, so enough said. So they talk about what the role is. They talked about the three domains that they are targeting. They looked at and they met online 115 staff members, parents, and students. So that was a big group of people that they interacted with. I love this.
Oh.
At the end of every time he interviewed, he asked to describe in one word, what would you say about your school? And so he was building a word cloud with this, and he used our logo to build the word cloud. So Kathy and I already have plans for getting this printed. We'd love to see a big print of this in our front office. It was great to be able to say to some of the students, look for your word, see if you can find your word. And then of course, if you know how word clouds work, the words that are repeated more often get bolder and they get larger. And so just stands out so much that you love to see those words that really stand out. Creative, family, caring, community, home, joy, acceptance, growth. I could go on and on, but those are the ones that were obviously repeated often enough that they were that large. So then when they talk about general findings, and there's some of these things that are that we look forward to kind of digging in, and nothing was really surprising. We were able to really talk about the things that we know that we need to do. The one thing that was really helpful, and I think was a good, you know, it was good feedback to hear that what they sense is that collectively, we are all engaged in supporting an authentic Montessori philosophy, that when they talk to all the staff, they talk to the board, and I know I shared with the board that they bragged about you as well. So they always felt that they were getting the same message, no matter who they were talking to. And of course, that's so important, you know, as a school that has a unique opportunity to provide this type of instructional model. And then one of those things that we know that we are working on still is really figuring out a way to build in more opportunities for our staff for professional development, to build out our organization and instructional effectiveness. We just started a mentoring program this year, but we just started. So We don't have a lot of ways of tracking whether or not that mentoring is effective yet, because it is just a beginning program, but it definitely is on the right path of where we need to go to make sure that we are providing a structured, collaborative learning process. The other thing that they also shared is that another theme is that one of the things that we work on, and one of the things that was kind of like, oh my goodness, how do you show this? One of the things that they want to see, and I know I see people here that are accountants and lawyers, you know, it's that drive. If it's not written down, then it's as if it doesn't exist. So we have lots of processes that are very effective that we've been using for years, but we don't always write those down. And the other thing that is specific to Cognia, they want to see that you have ways of measuring the effectiveness of those processes. So in terms like we have map data, and we can talk about that kind of student data a lot. That's easy for us to talk about. But when it comes to like, how do we know, for instance, and I'll just use this one as an example because it was brought up, you know, how do we know the mentoring program is going to be effective? Well, you know what? That's really a great question. And we need to really think through as we move forward with our mentoring program, what will be those metrics we will use to determine the effectiveness of the mentoring program. So they were able to, you know, pick out different programs that we do have in place that they just wanted to know, like, how are we gauging the effectiveness of those programs? Furthermore, just so you know, this is just the beginning of the report. They will, within about, I think they said 30 days, they will send a very extensive report to us. And at that point in time, I think that's also when we'll know whether or not we receive the full designation of accreditation. The next thing that they wanted to say, again, just a high five to the governing board, just that they felt like you guys demonstrate just strategic business acumen, and you know, you're focused on our mission. So again, they really had a lot to say about that. Also outstanding was just the fact that they really said we have a culture that it's really obvious that there's a very caring learning environment, and that we promote innovation, collaboration, and we foster independence for our students. Also, just a deep sense of family and culture of grace and courtesy and support for learners throughout their educational experiences at IM. And I think that's the last theme. So the next thing that we will be doing is we will, within 10 days, they have to send their report to Cognia. Then the commission will then send a final report to us in about 30 business days. We'll get ratings for every standard and ratings for the classroom observation, which Kathy will talk a little bit about the primary information we got, as well as just some of the specific scores around our education quality. So yeah, just really thrilled about that. I'm going to pass it now to Kathy. I'll stop sharing my screen because she's going to share a little bit about the primary program, because as you may remember, we had to be go through this process for not only our our K-8 and our 9 through 12 grade, but we also had to go through this separately with our early learning. And believe it or not, there were more standards under the early learning than there was in the general K-8, but that's enough said about that. Kathy, I'll pass it on to you.
Great, and if I could add, when we were talking to the team who did the K-12, and they were talking about their experiences with the students, one of the things Dr. Mathern said was, typically when they interact with children like that, it's like pulling teeth, trying to get them to participate and communicate. He said the degree of chat that was going on in the chat box during all their Zoom meetings, and he said generally no one touches the chat when they're doing these sort of interviews, like, was amazing. And he said he really regretted that he didn't have more time to engage at more length with the students, because they were asking questions. what's your doctorate in? And what made you want to be a Cogni accreditor? What's the weather like where you were? Like, just, oh my gosh, that level of curiosity and engagement from the children. Just, Patrice and I were a blubbering mess through most of the presentation. It was wonderful. And I do want to be on the record to say, like, that Patrice, a really message to everyone, and I see there's a couple of parents on here who participated, like, please don't gloss over the areas you feel we need to improve on. And we said that to the staff and to the students as well, like, because we want honest and good feedback to help us get better. And even with all that, to have such positive review from the team was just so gratifying. We just feel so grateful to be part of this community. Anyway, Dr. Barnes did the review for primary. As Patrice said, it was quite intense. There were over 300 standards. Sadly, we did not get the PowerPoint, exit PowerPoint from Dr. Barnes to share, but I did grab a sneaky screenshot of the ARIL scores, which are the environmental rating for early learning scores. So I can share those with you now in a minute. How those environmental rating scores were, how they got into the classroom, even though they were doing all of this virtually, was they had me standing with my phone in 3 different classrooms for 30 minutes a piece, and it was 30 minutes to the second, I can tell you. And they were directing me around, like, over here, what's this, show me this, what's the discussion here. Same thing on the playground and some of the other parts of the primary building, just so they could get a real sense of what's going on in the classrooms there. Let me share the scores with you. There you go. So this is the only data I have to share from her observation, though it was beautifully positive again. So what she said was that the score in a typical early learning facility, the average score is about 2.8. So you can see our scores really topped that in every single domain, with an average score of 3.55. I'll let you all read that yourself. And what was really telling was that at the end of the presentation, Dr. Barnes and the other doctor who was there, I can't remember her name, Patrice, were so impressed with the Montessori that they admitted that they were now converts. And Dr. Barnes said that she really was hoping that even we would talk to her husband to convince him as soundly as we had convinced her that Montessori was the way to go for the younger members of their family. So we thought that was wonderful. Okie dokie. Ready to stop sharing?
Kathy, there was a quick question I'll ask on behalf of the chat, which was, how were students and parents chosen for the interview with this group?
So we didn't, with the parents. So we just wanted a diverse group of people who had been with us for a long time, people who had been with us more recently, and all the different ages of children. So it was just sort of randomly selected.
So the parents, so the students, the teachers actually chose the, we gave them kind of some, broad, terms of, how to select. And then for the parents, unfortunately, we couldn't, we couldn't have, they designated how many had to be in each group. So we, chose some people that we knew that, have been with, like Kathy said, have been with us for a long time, some people who were new. So yes, lots of opportunities in the future when we do this again. So any other questions about the accreditation?
When did you say you were going to find out that they would be submitting final reports?
So they were supposed to have submitted their final, the teams were supposed to have submitted their final reports within 10 days to Cognia. And then within 30 days, business days, they're supposed to send us a report. So I'm thinking that's like, April, mid-April. I haven't counted the actual days yet, but it could even be sooner than that.
Okay.
Thank you guys for all your hard work getting us here, and thanks for running through that. I don't think I'd actually stepped through the individual themes as you were going through. I was like, there's lots of logos that they pulled. They put a lot of cool stuff together for it. Just really it feels like it wasn't that long ago we were talking about the daunting hurdles ahead of us of getting through accreditation. So it was quite easy where I sat. I'm pretty sure it was not where you sat, but thank you guys for all your work getting through it.
Gosh, and
Well-
Philip, again,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Patrice.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and oh my goodness, they bragged on the board so much as well. I want to give you your dues. And they said they have rarely seen a more committed and connected and informed group comprising a board. So honestly, like with the parents, the students, the staff, the board, we killed it.
Yeah.
Well,
it was
Normally
really-
I fail to come off humble, but in this group, I will give the others all the credit. So
I will say this as an update to accreditation. I did mention this to Brett. One of the things that we've been, talking about is that this accreditation will allow us to kind of, roll into the Montessori accreditation. So we've had a couple of hiccups around the Montessori accreditation, specifically around the cost. So we just recently got notified that they are going to have a pretty hefty cost for us to support the people that are going to come and review the school. I was thinking, I knew that there was a cost involved with this, but I was thinking, oh, there'd be like, 4 people coming in, based on what I was seeing with Cognia. They actually let me know the end of last week, and we're in communication back and forth right now, just negotiating this. They actually said it's for 12 people.
Wow.
And it's housing them, transportation. It's a lot of money. So
does that include Disney tickets for them
I
as well?
yeah, I know. So
How long are they supposed to be here? Like, what is
they're
the
supposed to be
time
here
frame?
Three nights. They have to have a single room because I've done a lot of, we're a public school, get 2 queen beds, 2 people in a room. Like Kathy joked with somebody, we've gone to conferences sometimes and shared a king bed. That's what we do as educators. Anyway, so we're still negotiating that, but Brett did want me to mention to you that maybe this is something we can discuss in an executive committee meeting, thinking about our strategic plan, whether or not we just pause this right now. But so I have to laugh because Kathy is such a Montessorian, and she made the comment today. She was kind of joking, but she was serious too. She said, golly, we got Cognia now. I don't know, we're Cognia, and we're not. We don't know yet if we're accredited. But anyway. But I did agree with Brett. I think it would be a good idea. And I am still negotiating with them, and I'm trying, and they're very kind. They said, no, we understand why you want to know all the details, because we didn't even know, because now it's some people are, and probably most of them are going to be flying. And so yeah.
12. I can't even wrap my head around that.
Yeah. So just the rooms, just so you know, the rooms, and they're not choosing an expensive hotel by any stretch of imagination, but with single rooms, just that is close to $10,000.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
not to rain on anything, but I did want to just put that out there to you.
Thank you, because I was curious about next steps for that. So.
And they are a great group, a wonderful organization, all very genuine and well-intentioned. It's just, I guess we're a big school. So yeah, something to think on.
Right.
Yeah.
So we'll figure out a time, maybe we can get together as the executive committee, and we can talk about that. So going
You'll have
further, sorry.
I was going to say, if we need to get with Hyatt and try and get a rate negotiated, because $10,000, I just did the math for 12 rooms and 3 room nights seems a little high. So you let me know.
Well, and yes, I can do that too. That may be helpful, but then I have to pay for more mileage if it's too far away. Anyway, no.
We'll work it out.
So the building update, I want to give you an update on the building right now as well. So like I said to you, I gave you the board my actual report. I said it was pretty, the highlights were there, but then today after we had the meeting, I was able to fill in some of the details. So I don't know how many of you were able to actually pull off that report, but I'll kind of go over it. But it is, thanks to Kristen, it is up there in board docs for you.
I swapped it to the new one. So if you go there, it's the new one.
So one of the first things I did want to let you know is that we are still going through the process of the special exception. it looks like we're not going to get onto the city's calendar to complete the process until April. I'm trying to negotiate right now with Lisa Soul, who is handling, our lawyer who's handling that special exception, if we can make sure at least it's on the early meeting in April. So I'm trying to negotiate that with her. But due to the different meetings that we have to have with the planning and zoning, and then they have to have a reading, this is where the timeline has worked out. We did have our first bond team meeting today. And if you remember, Richard, when he's been on, he's talked about how that will be the meeting where we'll pull in all the different stakeholders that are part of this process. Philip joined us today because Brett couldn't join us, so I really appreciate that. So Philip's kind of put that on his calendar for every Tuesday at 1 o'clock to have his finance brain involved with that. It's going to be very helpful. We actually learned some things with this process though today. You may have mentioned, I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but I do want to just make sure you're aware of some of the things that are going on for due diligence with the bond. So one of the things that we had to complete with the Appendix A, we got that to him. And so that has been, our part's been done with the Appendix A. And that's a big part of what has to go to get this process started. It's basically a profile of the school. The good news is I've done a lot of that work with Cognia, so it made it a little bit easier to pull some of that data together. The next thing that we are going to be involved in is what's called the due diligence questionnaire. As best I understand it, it's a document to show our compliance with all standards involved in this process, a fairly common due diligence process that when any industry is going through a bond purchase like this, you would have to do it. That's going to be a little bit more involved. I may have to reach out from time to time for your information to complete that as far as my part. There will be the lawyer's part. There will be different people who have to contribute to that document. Those will be a couple of the pieces of document that we have to put together to present. So one of the things, and I'll talk about what we were going to do as a, if you remember, part of this process is coming up with a conduit for the bonds. We were thinking that the city was going to be the best opportunity to use for that conduit for the bonds. And AJ, since Kevin is here, you are free to correct me if I'm not saying anything right, about this. So we had our bond counsel reach out. That's Kareem Spratling. He reached out to the city of Ocoee. The city of Ocoee wasn't necessarily opposed to trying to be our conduit, but they'd never done it before, or they'd done it so rarely that they really didn't understand all the ins and outs. And Kareem works with the city of Ocoee, and he just got the impression that while they may be 60-40 willing to do this with us, he said that it was probably going to delay other processes within this this whole big thing that we're doing. And so what we are doing instead is we're reaching out to the Florida Development Finance Corporation. It's FDFC. And I just took it straight from their website. It tells you a little bit of who they are. They're designated as statewide. They're a special development financing authority. And so Richard has used them before. There is a fee. We don't know quite what the fee is yet, but the fee is definitely going to be, we feel, it's going to be offset with the time we're going to gain. Because remember, one of the things we're trying to do as we race against time right now is we're trying to get ahead of interest rates that might creep up. So one of the things that we feel like, even though, because the city was going to maybe, take a little bit longer, using this organization that Richard's really familiar with would get us through. One of the things they've already done is they've already reached out to the organization, FDFC, and they are looking to get on their calendar for April the 21st. That was the earliest that the bond team said that they felt like they could get not only the DDQ, the Appendix A, and all the other supporting documents that they need to pull together for the entire project. So once they have that meeting on April 21st, then immediately we're expecting FDFC will make the approval and they'll go forward. Then there is something else that we have to get through, and it has to do with what's called the Tax Equity Fiscal Responsibility Act. And apparently these kinds of financial deals have to go through either the governor's office, or they can go through a city's office, a municipality. So Melissa is just saying that there may be a chance that we could actually hit up City of Ocoee for this purpose, even though they wouldn't be doing the conduit for the bonds. And the reason why that might be helpful is because the governor's office can take up to 30 days, where they are saying that they normally don't take that long. But Melissa was just saying, you know, it might be advantageous to us, and she's going to ask Kareem to reach out to the city again to say, hey, you know, we will already have our special exception by then. If after that's cleared with the city, would they consider being the one to receive these documents and sign off just in the same way that the governor's office will sign off? So I'm going to shut up for a minute. I said a lot.
Is there any chance we could file with both and whoever gets back first wins? Is that
I know. You ought to bring that up in the building meeting. Yeah.
okay?
Yeah. I don't know if they'll know, or you can send Melissa an email and copy me. It's not a bad idea. Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, they do not teach bonds in your ed leadership degree. So I just want to give a little clap, clap, clap to Patrice Cherico, who's managing accreditation and bonds simultaneously while running a school. So well done, Patrice. Take a bow.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm doing a good job, but that's I told Melissa when I was on the phone with her today, later, Philip, after the meeting, I said, oh, look, I was Googling, what is DDQ actually? What is, you know, what are all these things stand for? But hey, I learned. So just like the kids.
You'll be ready for another certification when you finish.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. The other thing that they did also mention, and then Philip, you can think of anything I missed, let me know. The other thing that they mentioned is that they will be seeking to get a double B rating for us, because that to, you know, because we could go in non-rated, and if you remember, we talked about this early on, but it really is advantageous to us to be rated. And if we can get that double B rating, that's going to help mitigate some of those rising interest rates that we're, you know, trying to beat when we go to market. Philip, do you have anything else that you can think of?
No, you did a great job giving an overview of all of the pieces of it that came out of today's meeting. Overall, it was good to see the energy of the team, the dynamic of who's on there, multiple companies, but a lot of them know each other. A good structure that they've got set up there. Handful of other little, oh, we need this schedule, we need that schedule. Oh, we've already got this one primarily pulled together, and we've got that one pretty much pulled together. And there was some like, we might not need weekly meetings, and Rich was like, I'll be scheduling these weekly. We'll be touching base. You know, it was good to hear him on that. I think AJ, did you have a question?
No, I was just going to say I appreciate just the concentration on the timeline, right? I think that's dictating everything with this process and the rate factor. So especially with the FDFC component, you know, again, penny rich or pound foolish, I think it makes complete sense. So, you know, well done on pushing this through.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah, and I would echo what Kathy said too. It's nice watching Patrice develop her bond skills, her commercial real estate skills, her project, you know, construction project management skills. Yeah, you'll have lots to add. Yeah.
Become a muni bond salesman.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Sorry, guys, not my thing. But anyway, So just so you know, the building renovations, we're having our weekly meetings, for that. We continue to move forward. Philip, I did have a longer conversation, Stacy, with Leanne this afternoon too, after the calls with Melissa and this meeting, just to kind of make sure we're going to push through, because now we're looking at May, so we want to be able to release and get commencement going. So Leanne's in that loop, and Philip, I'm going to make sure she's in the next all the meetings moving forward. I emailed them and I said, no, we got to make sure that she gets included in that, because for instance, all the documents that they were asking about, the surveys, and I said, no, I'm pretty sure we've gone through
Right.
some of those.
Leanne's
but
with Building Hope, right?
yes, sorry, yes, Leanne Daly is the Building Hope Director of Development.
Okay.
So she's the
Have-
one who's on our building meetings every week.
From that timeline schedule, where have we gotten to that we need to, essentially start doing things to be ready in the fall?
So what she told me today, she said, really, she feels like, based on the work that has to be done, it's not a lot of work. What we're concerned about, for instance, if Stacy remembers this on the building meeting this week, we're concerned about our lead time for ordering certain items like the flooring and other items. So we're working through that. And if we can get ahead of that piece, the only piece that she is really leery of right now, but actually more just wanting to get ahead of it, is she wants to submit the permit package while the special exception is moving through. So we've reached out to Lisa, but Elisa didn't answer that question. So I'm going to reach out to Lisa again and say, hey, or maybe she said, Leanne said she would reach out to her again to say, hey, what's the chance of us doing that? Because it's the permitting that, could hold us out if we have to wait till everything's settled. So she's hoping we can do that at the same time.
It seemed like this shouldn't really be, there were the permits to make changes to the building, because that's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Which, it's not like it would have to be validated as a high school. We're not going to move forward with the project if we don't have it validated as a high school, but it's not like you can't change some rooms or some electrical because it's not a high school.
Right. Nope, I agree. So, and then that goes for, all the projects, Fuller's Cross, main campus. So we're still moving in, and it's still the idea of basketball court. I haven't actually, like everybody in here is hearing this, and people in my office, sometimes they say, oh, we're going to get a basketball court, we're going to get a soccer field. I haven't put it on Parent Square quite yet. I'm kind of waiting until a little bit longer that we can really, say, okay, this is really happening, even though I feel certain it's going to happen. So it's going to be exciting.
And to fill in, I know I've heard you say this earlier today and in other conversations we've had, but I'll say more for the others, is keeping an eye on Patrice's keeping Building Hope involved in the conversation from a dollars perspective of some of the spend that's happening now. Does it come out of our pocket now, or is it coming out of, for lack of better description, coming out of Building Hope's pocket and going into the project costs to then be paid out when the bond goes through? As the dollars pile up, they might be small from a project perspective, but they're not so small from our monthly expenses perspective.
And I did get that clarified from Leanne today too. So, and I was going to give Dave, she showed me where the total account that we can count on. So for Z development, the amount that we've already paid is about $8,000. So the amount that we may have to negotiate, between now and before we actually settle is going to be another 11,000. So that made me feel a little bit better.
Those
wasn't like
numbers are more, yeah,
Right.
those numbers are more okay than some of the other project cost numbers that we
Right.
see that make us squirm a bit more.
Yeah. So I did get that, settled from Leanne this evening too.
Okay.
Okay, and then just to let you know, the FTE survey is being completed, right now. Tomorrow's the lottery. Everyone, if you haven't gotten your application in, even for our 4-year-olds, you got to get your applications to make sure that you are counted in that group. We have about 762 on the wait list. So we have, again, a really healthy wait list going forward. We had a few staffing updates that we've been, notifying, on Parent Square about what's going on with the staff. Again, one question I think I had where people were feeling, I know it can feel like, oh my goodness, there's so much movement. Some of these, staffing changes have really been within the school, and there have been a few people that have left, but again, our retention rate, I've looked at it over it again, is still really high. I think sometimes people don't realize how many people, we really do employ and how many teachers we really have. We started actually planning for the 2022-2023 school year. So starting to get those conversations going. So that's really exciting. I think all of us are hoping that we leave these couple of years behind in terms of all things COVID. And Kathy and I will be revisiting the mask policies and things that we have in place. OCPS, I think, is looking at it again at the end of February as well. So we expect to message that. If you didn't read your Parent Square, and I know I'm speaking to the choir right now, I can look at these names and I know I'm speaking to mostly all the choir, there is going to be a strong push to do a correction around the tardies. We have way too many people coming in late. We've had plenty of time to adjust to the construction that is on Fuller's Cross. And again, we will say, as we know, when we deal with the city on these issues, and Stacy and I hear from traffic engineers, our drive line was never created to be able to handle massive amounts of people coming in for 10 minutes to drop off their kids. And I just can't stress enough, I know I'm speaking to the choir, come early when there's like nobody in line. So we're hoping that we're going to be doing some things tomorrow, trying to get people's attention that I've got to get staff inside. I've got to get students inside. We want the classrooms not to be disrupted, and we need to get people inside. So enough said about that. Anything else?
Are we looking at a possible for some growth next year too? Is that something that when you guys are doing some planning, are we accounting for any growth? Did we have any come in that staffing growth for next year?
So right now for IMO, we'll probably have a few members, but we really are very close to our capacity,
Okay.
For IMO. We look forward to middle school growing a little bit more, but we don't see adding new staff. They right now have, fairly low numbers, in middle school. So we're looking to those numbers to boost up. But I know I see some of my lower L, I did see some of my lower L teachers here, and they would say, oh, lower L is fine. We're full. Upper L is fine as well. So yeah, not really a lot of growth. We're just looking forward to stabilizing.
Perfect.
Good question.
Good, healthy wait list. Happy to
Yes.
see that.
What was that number you said for waitlist?
762.
And that's slightly higher than it was this time last year. And we've done precious little advertising, not even a Facebook push. So that's a number to be proud of.
Yep.
That's right about our student population, right?
Yep.
Nice.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrice.
Everyone.
Thank you very much. Okay. And for those of you who don't know, we are doing a transcript, and it's really helpful if you want to look at it off to the side, because I was catching the numbers of the 762 and everything. So that's super helpful. I'm loving the transcript, and we're being inclusive. So that's great. All right, Philip, how's the finances for us?
Finances, well, let me give the update. I'll say on transcripts, I've learned to not watch them when speaking, because then I start using it like a teleprompter, and I find out it doesn't know what I'm going to say until after I say it, and we end up in this slower and slower cycle. So let's see. Overall, finances despite all of the conversations about bonds and all of that other exciting stuff, finances are surprisingly business as usual, with a lot of the little things going on. There's always, as every year in business as usual, there's always something that has its highlights and its exceptions. So some of the big one that's driving us this year is the shortage of funds from the teacher salary increase adjustment, which I feel like this is now like the 4th month that I'm like, no, really, it's coming soon. Now, which probably means it actually is coming soon, because I finally got to the point where I'm like, it's probably not coming soon, but we should get it eventually at some point by the end of the year. So hopefully that means tomorrow Dave will be like, we got the money. That combined with the grant spend, which you'll hear these as reoccurring themes. So, our grant cycle is we have to spend the dollars, we can get it reimbursed, but then we use that new reimbursement to spend the dollars to get more reimbursed. So the great part is it's a lot of dollars coming into our organization. The downside is it's a lot of it. It's an increased cycle of spend, reimbursement, spend, reimbursement, spend, reimbursement. So those two items together are acting just as a little bit of a continued, I would say, just not so much squeeze on cash, but it keeps us needing a few more dollars around. And I highlight this because I was just asking Dave this morning, I was like, I'm not seeing our dollars back in our reserve account. We're supposed to have rather large chunk of dollars sitting in a reserve account. We pulled some out earlier this year when we had our cash crunch back in August. So we're using those dollars now really for that cycle of these grant spend reimbursement cycle. So overall, I wouldn't say we're on a cash crunch, but at the same time, we don't have dollars in that fund. So as board members, I was like, I should at least give you guys a heads up on this one, just because it's something that it's a little bit buried in the details, but it is something that if someone came and was to ask, it'd be like, yeah, it's good to know, where are the dollars and why are they? Overall, on the high level, IMO is running about $100,000 better than budget for the year, with IMHS about $20,000 worse than budget. So as an overall organization, we're doing quite solid. And that gives us those, I'm pretty sure I'm comfortable with these numbers because we've adjusted the way we actually account for our over and underage and with our teacher salaries. So it used to be that our surplus percentages would end up just dramatically changing in June, but I'm anticipating them staying flat throughout the entire year, all the way to year end. So we're at a 15.2% surplus for IMO and a 7.25% surplus for IMHS. So that's that number that years ago we always look at, and the state would require 3%. And honestly, after being around the financials this long for the school, I can't even imagine running an institution at a 3% surplus. It'd be a nervous, stressed out wreck to I see Patrice nodding, and I can't even wrap my head around what that would look like, but we're in a good place on those. On another note, I'll be sending out the financials for January later this week. If you guys aren't in the habit of looking at them, I encourage you to take a read through. I feel like this is one of the first ones I really had a chance to really sink in recently, and I like the way the year to date, we've changed the view this year. So it's year to date focused. As a result, there's less pages, but I feel like there's actually more detail about what's going on. And since it really focuses on that story for the whole year, a little bit less focused on the individual months. So take a look. If you have questions or comments or feedback, feel free to touch base with me, or if you're not comfortable with that, follow Patrice or Dave as well. So on a housekeeping item, we're keeping an eye on the retention pond. I mentioned this because this one is a cost thing, but it's also more on the building side of stuff. But we keep waiting for the dollars to come in, and this is another one of those things, right? We're hopefully next month. Well, now we know it's at least May, so we're waiting till rainy season to get it fixed. So facility has their eyes on it to make sure that it doesn't become suddenly urgently critical, but it's still not where it needs to be. And last of all is, as Patrice mentioned, we're starting to talk about 2022-23 school year, which means that budget season's right around the corner. So fortunately for most of us, Patrice and Dave rocked it so much over recent years that it's not that hard for the rest of us on the board. But that doesn't mean that it's not a good chunk of work on their part. So although also referencing back to the conversation we just had, IMO will be, I think, honestly, in all the years I've been around, this is the most probably the closest continuity from one year to the next that IMO has ever seen, with the fewest changes in student counts and population base. So we'll keep the excitement at the high school, where we'll be bringing in a new building and figuring out what the staffing looks like for that and what do we need for administration and all of that stuff. So, you know, don't be concerned that it'll be too easy. There'll still be exciting changes. Overall, from that approach, we're going to try to really stay with what we looked at last year, or that same kind of methodology where Dave and Patrice really drive the show. They'll be starting, I think it's really maybe late this month, but really next month. They'll meet with each other, meet with the other administration, bring in the different leads for the different areas, and they build out that budget and get those details together. Patrice does a lot of digging into, you know, what's the upper levels need to look like, where does she need for staffing. We start with that 5-year plan, right? With a little bit more detail at the 3-year, and then work that back into what does that mean for next year. And then just like last year, I think we'll probably go for early April, where we do a initial review of kind of conversations on the details. So that's your opportunity as a board to really come in with those questions. If you have any special projects or anything that you really just want to make sure is in there, that early April meeting would be the workshop to come in and bring up those questions. And then around mid-May, we would do an additional workshop to walk through the budget, kind of where we have pretty close to final. And then that would line us up so when we get to our June board meeting, we are ready to basically just have a very high level numbers and stamp our approval on the budget for starting out the next year. I think I talked longer than I usually do, but I think I covered good details. So I don't know if there's no questions, I'll pass back to Kristen, but if there's any questions, just let me know.
Thank you, Philip.
Nice job. Okay. I think that Barney is on the line. I see James Fisher's iPhone. Hi.
Thanks. Hi. So we had Valentine's Day roses that went out yesterday. Hopefully everybody liked them. Hopefully the teachers weren't too annoyed. But we got some good feedback that they were nice roses, so that's good. And Spring Fest will be February 26th. And I hope everyone comes out. We haven't had that many people sign up yet, so hopefully I'm going to put another message out tomorrow, 10 days until the event. So hopefully everybody comes out to the farm and enjoys the day. And then we're just getting ready, other things, plant sale we're gonna do I think we're gonna do that in April, getting ready for Teacher Appreciation Week in May. And I think that's it for the PTO. Anybody have any questions?
Happy birthday, Marnie. Thank you. It's a good day to be on, but yeah, no, thank you. The roses were super sweet. I think the kids did enjoy them. Is it helpful? Because you can still sign up at the Spring Fest. Would it be more helpful to market it that you would just to give you guys counts to have those tickets purchased in advance, or?
It would be better in advance because they don't really have Wi-Fi out there. So we're gonna have to app on our phone. We were hoping to use the iPads, which we're going to bring and maybe use a hotspot for them. So it would definitely be best if everybody pays before, but we will take payment there. And also volunteer hours, you know, we haven't had that many people sign up to work the shifts. So I don't know if maybe we could maybe say, you know, because it's just like an hour, if they can roll that over for next year, if possible, just to have a few more people. Otherwise, it's just the PTO, me and Nina and two other, Karen and Katrina might just be working the 4 areas. So I don't know if that's something that we could work out.
Yeah, because technically the volunteer hours are waived this year.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna actually just make a note right now in Parent Square to make a big push, Marnie, next
Mhm.
week, so that, about the event too.
Okay. Yeah, because I think we've had maybe around 100 people sign up, which really
Oh.
isn't a lot. So I'm hoping, a couple
Okay.
more events, and maybe as it gets closer, that more
Mhm.
people, that I know everyone's busy with other things, but if they can, stop by and at least have some fun for the afternoon.
Well,
And I
we
think
we
it's
are notoriously the community that does procrastinate. So hopefully, but I will definitely put a big push in there for the next week's newsletter. And I think Cindy just mentioned to me too, like, you may be able to use high school students for volunteer hours. They have to do volunteer hours for graduation as a requirement for graduation. So you may want to reach out to Cindy to see if there's any high schoolers that may want to help out.
Yeah, that would be perfect. And it's just an hour shift,
Oh,
so
wow.
we're not
Give
asking.
them 3 or 4 hour shifts. It's really seriously to make it worth their while, to get some volunteer hours. So you never know, but I'll reach out to Cindy and ask her.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Thank you, Marnie.
Marnie,
think-
just one real quick one on the event. I know that maybe people don't know as much about the location or what they offer. Do you want to say a little bit about that and how maybe there's some things for different age groups or I'm just, curious if you want to kind of share a little bit of that just for those who are listening, so we can pass on what will be happening on that day.
So we're gonna have, they have a bounce pillow there, so the kids can bounce. They have like a little maze that they have to figure their way out. They have 2 zip lines, one for older kids, one for younger kids. That's extra. You have to pay extra for the zip line, and you have to pay extra for the horse ride. The zip line is $9 and the horse ride is $6. But everything else is included. They have like slides and I don't know, farm animals there. So there's lots of things to do. I know we usually go there for Halloween or their pumpkin patch area. So I don't know, the kids usually have fun just running around, enjoying the day out. And then we're gonna have a food truck there. It's gonna have vegan options and regular options. And also Kona ice truck. We're gonna also do the community closet. So we're just gonna do that. There's not gonna be any other vendors there just because it was a quick turnaround to put on the event, but yeah, so that's pretty much what they offer.
Great. Thanks.
No problem.
I'll be signing up soon.
Okay. I have to sign up also. I haven't. I'm procrastinating too, so.
Do it soon. Okay. Good. All right. Let's see. Any other general committee updates?
Oh, go ahead, AJ.
Go ahead. So I am probably 3 people away from getting our brick order in. So I am excited to announce that I have some people that I've been chasing down. So if you're out there and you're listening and you're pending my Adobe reminder that hits you every 3 days, please fill it out. But so I will get that one mass order in. And then once that is done, we get that out, get them laid. But in between then, I'm going to kind of shift gears and obviously look at big picture. I know we're kind of through this year, but into the next school year and beyond from a big picture fundraising standpoint, and see how we can get some momentum. It took some time. I wanted to get this wrapped up. So that's been the usage of my time from the brick standpoint. So it has been on my mind and I've been thinking about it. And so once we're done here, we're going to move to step 2. So just an update on that.
How many bricks are we looking at in this order?
I think I'm at like 22 to 25. So it'll be I mean, I don't know what past ones were, but be decent, you know, when they get
Decent number to
For sure.
expand out our area a little bit.
For sure.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you, AJ.
You're welcome. Thank you for anyone on the call who ordered one for your patients. Appreciate it.
And I think it will be good timing to talk about the fundraising, maybe in conjunction with the budgeting, you know, to just really kind of establish like, what are our goals and what do we want to do, and kind of start that discussion now, even going into the next year, so that we can kind of mobilize some of those things over the summer, and, you know, and then really decide, you know, again, what portion are we trying to attempt to raise, you know, because we have to have some sort of a goal usually set. And I know it's been such a wacky year for a couple of years in terms of fundraising and goal setting, and lots of things going on for a lot of people. So, you know, maybe a little cautious on that front. So that might be something we can look at, you know, just plan,
Yeah,
like you said, a little further out for that. So
I think that's great. And probably a big help for me too would be, you know, understanding what that is for the school, and obviously with everything we have going on with the high school, and kind of what the big picture focus is, and then, you know, kind of give me my marching orders to start getting some movement there. So I just get a little guidance from that standpoint. I think that'll be great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, and I would chime in on that. I know years we've had best successes where we have that clear definition of what we're after. And the last several years, at a combination of COVID and construction right around the corner, has made it really hard to figure out, you know, it's like, oh, we'll go for shade sales. Never mind, we're going to rip up the whole campus. So it doesn't make sense to put anything in. Or, you know, we should go for a soccer field. But oh, wait, we might be able just to lump that into the construction project. I was like, well, the uncertainty makes it really hard to actually have a goal that's drivable. So
Yep.
hopefully, as this year shapes up, both of those things will stabilize and settle down a lot, and move us into I wouldn't say return to normal, a new normal with more stability than we've had in the past.
Absolutely. I want to give a shout out to Allison Franks and the high school group and the building committee meeting this last week. It was just so joyful to see how excited they were to look at flooring samples and color schemes, and like really think about how they could leave their legacy for future generations of IMO students to come. So just wanted to say thank you, Allison, for just, you know, sharing that passion and helping the students to come and be a part of the process, and it's so valuable for them. And I think it, you know, just to even understand aspects of the building and construction business, right? Like that's such real world experience that they're getting by going through that process. But from me sitting back and just listening to it and watching their faces as they were looking and kind of really deeply thinking and discussing and trying to see, well, what about this? And that would be for this. And like they were really just processing the information, and it was just a breath of fresh air. So just wanted to say thank you for making and having them be a part of that process too.
Man, Stacy, thank you for remembering that. Oh my goodness. I know it seems like so long ago, but you're right. You captured that really well. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's all I had for committee stuff. I don't think anybody else has anything else, Kristen, if you want to wrap us up this evening.
sounds good. My only couple of questions are, I did hear something about maybe executive committee. Maybe we need to schedule something. Maybe we'll wait to hear about the ruling at the end of the month about what we want to do for March meeting. If we want to maybe do an attempt of a hybrid, but you let me know.
Okay.
You know, when we get to the end of the month, maybe we make that decision. And then maybe also if we do want to regroup on a tour, I know we didn't get a chance to do that, right? I know Cognia came in and did their touring, so we probably maybe want to try to do that before the school year's out, is to do that tour again. So I can start a little date discussions. I know we are missing a couple folks tonight, but we want to try that again. I know we had talked about maybe Fridays.
Fridays, right? Yeah, like picking a Friday morning time frame.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. think that would be a good idea. Try to get that back on the calendar.
Okay.
You know, we get
Yeah.
into March here pretty soon. Maybe try to sneak it in before spring break, but not the week of that Friday before, right? To Kathy's point, right? Like that's the worst Friday ever. So we can't make it the right Friday before because then we're not getting that realistic picture of what's going on because they're just all excited. Actually, there's no school that Friday. It's a teacher work day. So it would need to be the week before they go out. Maybe we could try to sneak it in that first weekend of March, or that first Friday of March.
So that would be
I
what?
work in
March 4th?
accounting. The 4th wouldn't work.
Okay.
It'd have to be the 11th on my
And they're
side.
out that day.
They're
That's a
out,
teacher
okay.
work
They're
day.
out.
So then, let me
It's the
see.
18th.
They're still out for
I'll let
spring
you
break.
chime in.
So maybe the 25th.
25th is possible. Yeah.
That would work for me.
Throwing
We
that
have
one
to
out there. We at least get this group nodding heads and
Let me
start
double
with
check my.
What time were you thinking for that? On,
yeah, we were talking about the morning, but I guess let me ask a question. At one point we were talking about,
trying to make it a lunch afterwards.
well, there was either the discussion of a lunch or the inclusion of, oh dear, why can't, John.
Mm.
See his
Oh,
face.
he is. That's
Was
like
he
right
wanting to
before
take
his
a
week.
tour?
Is that?
Was he
No, that's February.
tour with us? I wasn't sure. Did he ever get a chance to take a tour? I don't know. Patrice may
I
not.
don't think so. I don't think so.
I don't think he did. Yeah. Mhm. So we could certainly include him in the invite.
It's far enough out. It's a month out roughly. So, you know, could maybe do some planning there.
Anything on the 25th then tentatively, maybe?
oh, March
Morning.
25th. I was looking at February. You're talking about March?
25th, March 25th.
March.
March.
Mm-hmm.
My calendar currently looks good for that day. So
Yeah. We need to get it on there fast then.
Okay, we gotta, y'all are busy.
Yeah. It will fill up if you leave it empty. Trust me.
Exactly. Okay. So,
I would say I may or may not be traveling from work, but I would say book it anyways if that the consensus is there, and then I can work around that when I book travel.
okay.
that sounds like the same status. Get it on there early, and then
I'll make it.
yeah.
work.
The
I
morning would
almost
be
feel
better
like-
potentially, AJ, maybe.
Yeah, more and yeah, Fridays are great, so pretty flexible there.
And can we have like a fake date that I can put on my calendar so my VB can book over that one, and then I'd be like, oh, that one I can cancel for you, and then we'll have a real date.
Send you
All
two.
right. Sounds like a plan. We'll placeholder the 25th in the morning. So
Awesome.
very good. Okay, and then our next board meeting, I'm just going to confirm, I think we've got all the dates on the calendar now, but we are meeting on the 8th, which is before spring break. So that is coming up pretty quickly. And so we'll just decide what we want to do for our meeting on the 8th as far as the in-person or not component. So,
And
Sounds good.
all right.
just FYI on that meeting, I will be in Arizona for work, so
Okay.
it's going to be, I may or may not be at that meeting.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay, well, thank you all. Great attendance at our board meetings recently. It's been nice to see everybody. So take care. Have a great night.
Bye-bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.